Shruti, have you ever considered about using future contracts for our upcoming commodity purchases?
Absolutely, Ritika. Forward contracts are customizable agreements where parties agree to buy and sell an asset on a predetermined price on a future date.
Oh yeah, right. We can even, customize the terms and conditions of the contract as per our requirements. It can be a financial instrument, currencies, or any commodity.
Yeah, and also there's no upfront payment required. So it becomes a cost-effective way to hedge against future fluctuations in prices.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, what are futures contract and how are they different?
Well, future contracts are standardized agreements and they're traded on exchanges where parties commit to buying or selling an asset at a predetermined price and date.
So, futures contract are more liquid and are easy to trade as compared to forward contracts.
Yes, futures also require a daily settlement known as marking to market. So, here that accounts for the price changes, which provides transparency and also minimizes the default risk to the party.
So, the forward contracts are more customizable, whereas futures contract are more liquid. So, I think both of them have their own crucial role and risk management strategies.
Are you tired of the graphs that lie flat, unmoving, devoid of some spice? Do you yearn for the world where line moves, zigzag, zoom, and do all the mathematical miscellaneous to help you to earn money? Don't fear about it. I bring you derivatives. Derivatives is a type of financial contract whose value is dependent on underlying assets, group assets, or benchmarks.
So what are derivatives? Derivatives are financial instruments whose value is determined from the underlying assets price. There are different sorts of derivatives, that is futures and forwards, other swaps and other different derivatives. The key features and benefits of derivatives are hedge price risk, speculation in price movements, enhancement in returns and management in portfolio
What
management.
will be the purpose of forward and future contracts? Mitigating risk, speculation, and hedging. And what will be the similarity between forward and future contracts? So, these are the binding agreements between two parties for a particular asset at a predetermined price or for a future specific date. And under these contain various informations like what will be your underlying assets, quantity, price, delivery time, and settlement dates.
Now we'll talk about the differences between forwards and futures.
So forwards are customizable agreements and futures are standardized agreements.
Okay, so let's talk about forward contracts now. So mechanism of forward contracts is based on three parts. First is agreement details, which include underlying assets, price, delivery date, terms and conditions. Second, it's based on margining and settlement, which may or may not include margin deposit and settle directly between two counterparties. Third, profit and loss, which is purely based on difference between the agreed prices and the market price of
The advantages and disadvantages of forward contracts. The first advantage is that it is very customizable. People can tailor it according to their own needs, their specific dates, or their specific time when the contract has to be entered into. Second, there are no exchange fees. So when a person enters into a contract, there is a small exchange fee that is taken by the stock exchange. So there are no such exchange fees. Now let's talk about the disadvantages. The first disadvantages is that it is not that liquid. It does not really have any liquidity, so it is really difficult when you enter and exit from a position. Second disadvantage is that there is counterparty risk. So there is a counterparty risk where the other party is obliged to pay the amount to you but is not fulfilling the contract and yet you don't get the money.
Now let's dive into futures. So the mechanism of futures is also based on three parts. First is standard contract specifications, which defines the exchange, defined by the exchange. Second, trading on exchange, in which multiple buyers and sellers ensures liquidity and transparency. Third, clearing and settlement by a clearing house, which reduces counterparty risk and guarantees fulfillment.
Let's talk about the advantages and disadvantages of futures. The advantage of futures contains that they reduce counterparty risk. When you trade in future contracts, there is a clearing house which ensures that both the parties fulfill their obligations. The second advantage is that they are highly liquid because many traders are actively buying and selling these contracts. The third but not the last advantage of future contracts is transparency. These future contracts are traded publicly, so they ensure transparency. Now let's talk about the disadvantages. The first disadvantage of future contracts is that they're less flexible. Future contracts have standard terms, limiting the ability to customize them for specific needs. The second disadvantage is the exchange fees. When you trade futures on the exchange, you have to pay a transaction fees. The third disadvantage is the margin requirement. To trade in futures, you need to deposit a certain amount of capital known as the margin.